So I heard a story recently about a woman who was having a manic episode. She took her daughter and packed a suitcase full of books for some reason, drove for hours from Dallas east toward Louisiana. She didn't know why she did it or where exactly she was going, and her parents and husband had no idea where they were. A couple years later, she was at home one day holding her toddler when her husband came home, and out of nowhere she said, "I want a divorce." And she was just as shocked saying it as he was hearing it. That woman was my mom, and that baby was me, obviously. I didn't know anything about either of these incidents until I was an adult. It's very odd hearing stories or events that you were present for, but you have no recollection of. There are a lot of events and secrets that I've learned about my family. Some of it I was told on purpose, but usually not. Some of it shocking, but all of it very entertaining, and great material for first dates. Just kidding, it's actually the reason why I went on so many first dates. So let's start at the beginning. It'll be like scrolling through my Facebook timeline, but just the life events. Starting with my birth in 1979, which alone was a miracle considering my parents maybe had sex once, divorced within a few years, and my mom is now a lesbian. But here I am! When I was one, my mom was put in a mental facility for an entire year. My dad had to take care of me. I was obviously too young to remember this, but I'm reminded constantly with comments from my dad like, "I changed your diapers, I dressed you." Yeah, I mean, you were the only adult living in the house, so I don't know. I don't know who else would have done that. He and my mom's parents took turns with me, and I always knew that they resented each other for some reason, but I didn't know why. Turns out they just felt that the other one was more responsible for me, and it became a fight of who could be a better caregiver, I guess. This lasted well into college, and honestly, the only good thing about being put in the middle of this family argument is that I learned to use each side to get more money out of them at Christmas and my birthday, or just any time really. I'm an only child, so I knew what I was doing. My parents eventually divorced when I was 3. I lived with my mom for a while, and then when I was about 7, she went into the hospital again. So I lived with my aunt, my uncle, and my cousins for a year, I think. My life is a bit blurry during this time for me, and my parents apparently. I thought that I lived with my aunt for a few months, but my mom informed me recently that it was an entire year. And when I brought it up to my dad, he did not even remember me living with my aunt. It's like the time I mentioned to my mom, "Remember when I took ballet? I was so horrible and not graceful at all." And my mom replied, "You took ballet?" And I said, "Yes, you dropped me off at every class." And she just shrugged. Unfortunately, there's a lot of lost memories during this time because of my mom's mental illness. I sometimes like to blame her medication because this is true. She's lost her teeth because of it and now has dentures. So she told me that if she had to choose between being depressed or having no teeth, she'd choose having no teeth, which I think is a good choice. She either remembers very specific details or nothing at all. My mom's struggle with her mental illness was no secret, but somehow still kept secret from me, if that makes sense. For years, I thought she was just sad because that's all I knew about depression. No one took the time to explain anything to me. Granted, I really don't know how anyone would explain that situation to a kid, especially in the 80s and 90s when no one talked about it. It turned out my mom was suffering from manic depression and schizophrenia. 2 things I still don't understand, and I don't think I ever will. I don't ever really think of her as depressed because I didn't really see that side of her, and I literally just figured this out writing this story. I think my brain just probably blocked it out. But all I can do now is be mindful of what she's gone through and appreciate my time with her. So when I was a little older, I found out another secret about my mom. She came out of the closet, which was strange for so many reasons, mostly because I was 11 at the time and I did not understand what that meant. But when I told my middle school classmates, they said, "That's so cool!" I don't know why. Cool, yeah, all right. When I found out, it was confusing, but it made sense. It's like finding out Kevin Spacey was a sexual predator. Your first reaction is like, "What?" Followed 5 minutes later by, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." My mom would have female friends come over to our apartment. At the age of 6, I'm like, "Cool, friends." At the age of 40, I'm like, yes, she was definitely a lesbian. My reaction was a bit calmer than my grandparents, who gave my mom an ultimatum to not be gay, I guess. Don't worry, it didn't work. She's still gay and she's married to a woman. So speaking of grandparents, isn't it frustrating and entertaining watching them try to keep up with the world, adjusting to change? It's amazing how much you can learn about your grandmother, who was born in Birmingham, Alabama in 1932, when Obama is elected president. It's also interesting what you learn about them after they're gone. So moving on to high school. My other grandmother, my dad's mom, passed away when I was 14. She was one of my favorite people for so many reasons, one of which was that she always took my side when it came to arguments with my stepmom. She was a stubborn woman who took up painting, loved watching Regis and Kathy Lee, did the crossword every morning, and had hair as hard as a football helmet. It's true. She died very suddenly, and my admiration for her never changed. Even though as time went on, I learned that she drank. Apparently, a lot. See, we used to stay up late together watching Johnny Carson. I drank my chocolate milk, and she had her water. Except I found out later that that water was actually vodka, which in a weird way made me like her even more. I think you would have to drink a lot to deal with that side of the family. Unfortunately, when she died, the rest of the family showed their true colors as well. Doesn't everyone when money is involved? We lost my grandfather about 7 years later, partially to old age, also partially to being lonely, and also to what I found out was a gold-digging second wife. And I have since lost a lot of other family members. Not to death, but mostly to Fox News. That's a whole other story. Speaking of Trump supporters, let's move on to my dad. I know, you guys, it's horrible. His second marriage ended my junior year. It was awesome, you guys, because she was terrible. I never really knew the exact details. Years later, my dad ended up kind of telling me what happened, including the fact that they weren't even having sex anymore, to which my response was, nah, blah, 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 please stop talking, I don't need to know everything. Now, his fourth marriage, I'm skipping the third one because it was so short. Anyways, wife number 4 seemed nice. I was told that she couldn't drink alcohol because of an allergy. A couple of years later, on a family trip to Florida, my dad told me that that allergy was alcoholism. Fun! By the next year, they were divorced. And for the cherry on top, I'm going to tell you guys one last bit of some juicy gossip that not even my dad knows. Are you guys ready to hear this? Oh my God. Before I knew about the divorce, my dad's wife commented on a Facebook picture of the two of them at the beach together. And I was so thrown off guard by it, and now it seems so clear, but she wrote cheater, and I was like, what? Okay, and I sort of set it aside. I was like, maybe she thought she was writing another picture. I have no idea. So I didn't really know what to make of it. And my dad happened to be in town that weekend, and before I could say anything to him about this weird comment, he told me that they were splitting up. So I didn't have the heart to mention the comment because I felt like it'll stress him out and make him more upset. But he still doesn't know that I know that he doesn't know anything about this. And I feel like it's too late now. It's been like 9 years or 8 years or something. Except one day in his car, he did mention this Catholic book of prayers and how it was helping him get through the divorce, and then something about making mistakes in the marriage. And I was like, oh my God, I so want to ask him what happened. But I just couldn't do it because I was like, it just felt too mean. So I still haven't brought it up. And maybe someday I will. But I figured the more I knew about my family, maybe some of you can relate to this, the closer I would feel to them, but instead they sort of feel like strangers. I'm sure that I was not told many things for my own protection, but it feels like chunks of my life are missing that I will never know about, which maybe that's a good thing, I don't know. And these days, if I'm being honest, it's like I'm being forgotten. My family doesn't tell me much anymore. I moved 1,000 miles away 15 years ago, so out of sight, out of mind. They even forgot to invite me to my grandmother's birthday party, which ended up being her last. I found out by seeing a picture on Facebook of the entire family except myself. They literally just forgot. Yeah, it's really sad. I'm so mad about that. I'm sure that all of this has affected me in ways that I will never, ever know, but most importantly, it's really turned me into a very honest person who is always an open book. Except for this one secret about my dad, you guys. I so want to know what happened. It's insane. And the worst part is, I'll never be able to ask him about it because I think, oh, I'll ask him on his deathbed. But my dad is, and my boyfriend can attest to this, he's 67, he has no gray hair, he works out every single day, so he's going to outlive all of us. And I'm never going to get to ask him. So in conclusion, to parents out there, tell your kids everything. We want to know. Plus, it's great comedy material for me. Thanks, guys.